In Corporita Bonanza with Hanan Awaad, we will talk about several topics and we will meet successful people and experts in many fields to learn about their success stories and learn from them how to empower ourselves and stimulate our creativity. We will also review important books that enriched our lives. This program is for you, whether you are an employee or searching for your next big opportunity, or managing a business, or a student, or a parent. I'm Hanan Awaad. The world is my canvas, and success is my paint. Connect with me and my guests at president@corporita.ca. In Corporita Bonanza, we will learn from each other, and we will grow together. Hello everyone, I'm so thrilled to have Elizabeth Clarke with me today at Corporita Bonanza, where we will dig some gold nuggets as usual and learn so many things from her. So let me introduce Elizabeth quickly, and I will ask her to introduce herself as well. Elizabeth Clarke is the Executive Director of the YWCA in the region of Waterloo. She is also a regional counselor with the region, and oh my God, she is part of so many committees. She sits in so many boards. I don't think there is someone that I came across with such diverse interests and so active in the community like you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So, our audience, they don't know much about you. Our audience are from all over Canada and all over the world. So tell us, who is Elizabeth Clarke and how many hats do you wear?
Well, you hit the main one. So I am a very busy person who doesn't get a lot of time to sleep. I have my day job is running a large social service organization called the YWCA, and I am a member of Regional Council representing the City of Kitchener. Mm-hmm. And I am a part of a service club called Zonta.
Yeah.
And I sit on several boards and organizations as well.
Yeah. And education-wise, you have a bachelor's degree in psychology and English, and then
a master's in social
work.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And also you teach social work.
I'm a associate practicum professor with the Wilfrid Laurier University. So I work with students who are doing their placements.
Yeah.
And I help them to meet their educational goals, and also to tie the theory that they've learned at university with the practice that they're getting during their placements.
Yeah, cool. And you have the experience, long time, more than 15 years in the social.
Much more. I've been in social work my whole career.
Yes.
I've been at the YWCA for 17 years. So,
yes.
So yes, longer than I'd like to admit.
No, you should wear this as a badge of honor. Yeah.
We'll talk about my gray hair later.
Yes, we will do this. So I see that one of your specialties is in social policy, and our communities in general in Canada, and especially our community here in the region of Waterloo, witnessed recent developments in our social systems. So from your experience and your work, how these developments or changes are reflected in our social policy?
In a regional level, I think one of the things that we're seeing is great changes in how we understand such issues as poverty and homelessness. I think we're evolving quite a bit in how we address those things. So we're not just we're trying not to just put bandages on injuries, but we're trying more to get at the root causes of the problems and be more preventative and have a longer term view in the solutions. So that's something that I am happy to see happening. We're doing that regionally because, of course, here our region has the mandate for social services, but it's happening provincially and federally as well.
I heard some people say about the involvement of the government in social issues as social engineering, and they oppose this. The government should not be involved much in social systems. So what do you think about these statements?
Well, I disagree completely with that.
Yeah.
I think that the role of government isn't simply to be reactive and try to fix problems. I think the role of government is to try to head off the problems so they don't occur in the first place.
Yeah, and be preventive, as you said.
And be preventive.
Yeah. So we anticipate what problems could happen, and we start developing programs to
Right.
address
I mean, that's the planning function of government, which I think is certainly as important as anything else that the government does.
Yeah. So we will not go far from social systems and social policy when we talk about safe and healthy communities. And I believe you are part of the committee, the region for safe and healthy communities. Mm-hmm. And I feel that there are so many challenges that face either residents or government officials to maintain a safe and healthy urban atmosphere. I personally feel and know that there is tremendous work done in this area, but still we have, some challenges, especially in certain neighborhoods or certain issues. So how we can maintain, our communities as safe and healthy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Waterloo Region is quite a wealthy community overall, and we have a lot of advantages that many other regions don't have. But we do have in our community a very large gap between the haves and the have-nots. Mm-hmm. So I think we tend to focus on those of us who are doing quite well and benefiting from our economic growth. And we forget about the people who are being left behind. Mm-hmm. And we actually have a larger income gap in Waterloo Region than in many other places in the province and the country. Mm-hmm. I think one of our...
So do you feel there's a polarization?
Yes.
Because I can see this when it comes to literacy. I was involved with the literacy group, and I knew about the polarization in literacy. So there is also in income, you say?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that are, for one reason or another, poverty could be one of them, newcomer status is another one, literacy, but for various reasons they are marginalized.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest barrier we have to being able to say that we truly have a safe and healthy community. We do have too many people that are on the outside looking in at everything else that we enjoy. And we're seeing that even more with the great urban development that we're having with all the intensification in our core and some stuff that we're really proud of. But we have people who live in lower income who are being pushed out of those areas and really struggling.
One of the issues that was bothering me personally is underemployment. So we know employment, we know unemployment, but there is a shady area in between underemployment where people have low-paying jobs or part-time or seasonal jobs. So they work, but they still are in poverty, or their income is not satisfactory.
I was actually just talking last night to some younger women who are quite recent graduates of good university programs, and they were talking about just that thing, their inability to find full-time work, and their inability to find work that is in their field. And I know that we see that a lot with newcomers as well, that they may have qualifications, but they're not working in jobs that recognize those qualifications. I think part of our problem is that we do have two universities and a large college that are graduating so many people, and people want to stay here because it's a great place to live, but that really means that there are a lot fewer good jobs to go around. So definitely unemployment and underemployment of young people, of newcomers is a big problem we have.
So how we can bridge that gap? We hear in the news about so many good projects and good companies coming to our region. And also we have the heritage of being industrial area, and now with the dying industries and heavy industries, we don't have these jobs. And at the same time, tech companies come here, they don't employ many employees, and some other companies leave.
Right.
Like when a big food chain left our region to Hamilton. So
yeah. Well, I think you nailed what the problems are. We're working really diligently municipally. We now have the Waterloo Region Economic Development Group that's sort of amalgamated from all of the different city groups that used to fight with each other to bring business to this area. We now have that group that's working really hard to bring employers here, and we're having some success. I think I hear a lot that our focus, we're very proud of our tech sector, and we should be, but that's not going to employ everybody. And I think that one of the things we are hearing is that we do need to focus on other kinds of employers. We do need to have some manufacturing.
Totally, I agree. I'm from industrial and mechanical engineering background, and I know that these type of businesses they can accommodate large workforce. Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of continuing to work to bring those employers here, and we're seeing some success. The LRT has certainly attracted the interest of a lot of major employers.
Yeah, we will talk about this.
We'll talk about that. But I do think I also think that our educational system has some responsibility for where we are. People are not necessarily getting trained for the kind of work that's now available, and I think that's something that we can't control.
It's very interesting because with Conestoga College, they have very good programs that's geared towards industry and trades, and also with Waterloo, University of Waterloo and Wilfrid Laurier, we have programs for engineering, mechatronics, and all these things. And yet, I believe many of those graduates, some of them would like to stay in the region, and some of them actually they go and they go out even to the States. So not even in Canada. So they fly away.
Yes, that's always a problem. People tend to go where there's opportunities and money, and we are in a bit of a housing bubble right now. Housing is very expensive, so people are leaving just to be able to save a couple of $100,000 on their housing.
Yeah, and this is the third theme that I want to touch talking with you, because you are also involved with housing, community housing, and supportive housing and homelessness. So I don't understand what's the difference between housing as housing and then community housing and then supportive housing. So
it's complicated. So there's many different pieces that are needed to make sure that everybody is adequately housed. And for most people, what they need is housing that's simply affordable. And that's typically defined as not much more than 30-35% of your gross income. If you're spending much more than that on your housing, unless you're a very high earner and just choosing to live in a luxury type place. But if you're spending much more than that, then you're at risk of not being able to pay one or another critical bill. For most people, that's all they need. For some people, though, their housing problems are deeper than that. Maybe their income is much more restricted, so that there isn't housing that's available in that sort of price range.
For the level of income they have.
So if you're somebody who lives on Ontario Works, or who is working at a minimum wage job, and you may find that there simply isn't housing that's available in that price range, and that's very much the problem here. So those people need community housing, which is housing where the rents are actually geared to your income. So it may be $300 a month, it may be $600 a month, but it's what you can afford to pay. Then there's another group of people who the income is a critical thing, but also they are dealing with other problems, often around mental health or addictions. Maybe they have histories of trauma and abuse. So they need some supports as well. So there's affordable housing is the piece, but they also have some social work type supports to help them to stay housed and be successfully housed. And then at the extreme end, we have homelessness services like homelessness outreach or emergency shelter, which is, you know, people who are on the street, who are needing to get into one of those kinds of housing or another, but it's just going to take a little while to pull that together. So those are really the 4 or 5 different kinds of housing stability systems that we have operating here.
And how we do in all these different types in the region here?
Well, we have long wait lists for most of them. We have very little affordable housing in the region. The rental prices, and by that I mean just general market housing, the rental prices are much higher than our income levels would generally tolerate. So it is a problem for a lot of people. On terms of our community housing, which is the housing where the rents are geared to your income, we have about 3,000 households that are on the wait list for that, and because there's simply not enough. So some households will be able to get that within a few months, and some will wait years depending on the type of unit they need and where they are. So that's a problem. We have about 1,600 households that are on the wait list for the supportive housing that I talked about. There's about 1,600 that are placed in supportive housing. So we're only able to serve about half as many people as needed. The shelters are the one area where we're actually, we are actually meeting the demand, which is something that the public doesn't, that's often a surprise to people. But we are able to meet the needs of the people that are actually on the street. You'll still see some people on the street, but that's not because there isn't shelter available. That's because for one reason or another, they don't choose to use it.
So, but again, with shelter and emergency housing system, it's meant to be temporary.
Exactly.
So when we say temporary, is it 1 week, 2 weeks, or how long?
Well, I remember back in 15, 20 years ago where we would say it's 2 weeks or it's 3 weeks. I think we've evolved from that. We understand that people's needs are going to be very different. So if you are a single person and you don't have any significant mental health problems, and your income is low, but there are some things out there, you may only be in a shelter for a matter of a couple of days. That might be all it takes for you to find an appropriate place. And maybe staff will help you with that. Maybe you're able to do it on your own. But if you have some more complex needs, maybe you have a very large family, maybe you have 6 or 8 kids, and a very limited income, it's going to take you a lot longer. Sometimes we have people that are really not going to be able to live in the community without supports. We need to wait and hold on to them in the shelter until we can find them a place where there may be more staffing supports right there for them. So it varies on a person-by-person basis. The average, though, for a single person, the average time in the shelter is probably 2 to 3 weeks. And for a family, it's a little more because it's a little harder to find places for families.
I can see how things are tied and how sometimes we have some wicked or complex problems, because we were talking about housing. Before that, we were talking about safety and health in communities, and before that we were talking about social systems, and I can see how everything is interrelated. And so when we talk about health and how people, you know, have weight issues, some chronic diseases, some mental health issues, and then we jump to housing and we see the same themes are coming again and again. So when dealing with such complex problems or complicated systems, how we can tackle such problems?
You're probably familiar with the social determinants of health. And I think that's when I talked earlier about the fact that I think governments are becoming a little more sophisticated in how they understand social problems and a little more forward-thinking in how they address them. I think it's because we're getting an understanding of that. Health or well-being is not it's not just about this one element of your life. It's a web of interconnected things. So adequate housing is an important social determinant of health. So is having a good social network and having friends and family who love you. There's so many different pieces, and you really can't effectively say we're going to look just at your disease. We have to look at your disease, but we have to understand all the other interacting factors. And I think that's something that certainly in the region we're working hard on doing. We have the Wellbeing Waterloo initiative happening right now. We just finished up last night, was the last of the community conversations, and the whole goal behind that is to help us to, as a region, and I don't just mean the regional government, I mean the agencies within the region, the funders within the region.
All the stakeholders.
All the stakeholders, yes. To help us to narrow down on what are a few critical things that we need to be addressing our resources towards and working collaboratively on. Because the way our system works right now, this little group is working on this piece, this little group is working on this piece. There's a lot of scattered energies,
silos,
and it's not working. We have to find a different way of doing it.
So what is the role of individuals? Because most of these programs and support geared toward individuals. So on individual level, and when we talk about the social or well-being determinants, how am I, for example, as Hanan, can think about this and reflect on my own personal life?
That's a really good question. And interestingly, last night when we finished up the end of our communication, we were all challenged to identify one thing that would improve our own well-being, one thing we could do, and one thing that we could do that would improve our community's well-being. And it's around our table, people were saying very simple things, like one of the things I need to do is be less busy, be more in the moment, be able to appreciate what I'm doing and what I'm feeling right now, instead of always thinking about the next thing I have to do. The funny side of that, though, was, and this was the person who was sitting beside me said this, the thing that would be better for me would be I would be less busy. The thing that would be better for the community would be that I would be more busy and more involved. But there are, I think that's there are very simple things that we could do as individuals to improve our well-being. But I love the additional challenge of think of that one thing that you can do to improve your community's well-being. And it could be something, honestly, as simple as when you walk by somebody on the street, say hi. It doesn't need to cost you a lot of time or a lot of money, but you know that idea of exclusion that I was talking about earlier, that is very easy to overcome. You know, invite someone to share a coffee with you. It doesn't need to be.
And I think we've come a long way. I remember 8 years ago when I came here before that refugees things and so I was in the community and I felt that I'm the invisible visible. So people see me, but they decide not to see me. So I took a proactive approach by smiling and saying hi to everyone and engage in little conversations and really I felt happy.
It's huge.
And people were open for such approach.
One of my favorite organizations in town is the Coalition of Muslim Women. And they do, their whole reason for being is to engage people, build education, build friendships, and try to knock down some of those us and
barriers.
Them barriers. And they do so many cool things. And one of the things that they did earlier this week was they had Breaking the Fast. And that event, and there were hundreds of people there. It was huge. But that event sold out. I mean, the tickets were free, but they were gone within days, if not hours. That's how eager people were to come out. And I don't know if you were there.
No, I had my own guests.
It was amazing. So we just spent a couple of hours, people were just talking about what Ramadan means and what it means to there was a sort of a panel, but it was less.
And I think people are hungry to understand and learn about different groups. So in the Rotary Club, in Ramadan. So the president asked me to stand up and give a small speech or tell the club members what's all about Ramadan and why it is, you know, so significant for us. And it's not only for Muslim women. Maybe because we are so visible in the community,
Yes.
you can identify us. Yeah. But there are other groups, and some of them are invisible minorities with different type of barriers. So I love being engaged in groups geared to everyone, and everyone is welcomed. And through the interaction between different groups, we learn about different cultures, and we learn about. What's interesting is to know how similar we are. So put all these barriers in aside, and you will see that, okay, 2 or 3 things, but there are so many other things that we are common and we share.
That's right. It really is. It doesn't take much to make those connections. It really just takes somebody stepping a teeny bit outside of their usual bubble and being open.
Yeah, and I believe we discussed this before when I knew about the YWCA for the first time. In some areas in the world, it's purely Christian organization, but in other regions or countries, it's open for everyone.
That's right.
So it's only focusing on the social benefit or the social profit, no matter what's your religion, what's your ethnicity, what's.
Yeah, in North America and in many parts of Europe, maybe all parts of Europe, that is officially the case.
Yeah.
We've retained our name. We've had it for 150 years. It has historic meaning to us. But in Canada, it's been decades since officially in policy we became an organization that is for all women, regardless of faith. And in fact, our president, our national president, 2 or 3 presidents ago, was Senator Mobina Jaffer, who is a Muslim woman and our first Muslim senator. So she was our president. That was back in the 90s.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So let's jump to another thing. We touched on it when we were talking about the social systems and all these stuff, transportation and sprawling cities. So in Canada, we suffered for a long time from sprawl and the scattered neighborhoods and dependency on cars. And now there is a trend to intensification and diversification and all these things. In our region, we are so fortunate to have brave leadership, either regional or local, to be bold and get engaged in huge infrastructure projects. And we have the LRT now. So how do you think that such project will change the dynamics of our community?
Well, we see it happening. I mean, we are finishing up the construction of phase 1. We won't even be launching the trains until 2018, but we're already seeing huge amounts of development along the LRT corridor in Kitchener and Waterloo. We're seeing new employers coming in as well as new housing, and I think that's exactly what the hope was. This was part of our regional official plan as a way to combat the sprawl and the loss of our green spaces that we were seeing. So we can see already that it's working as a planning tool. And I'm sure that once we get through our rather difficult planning of phase of our stage 2 down to the end of the bottom of Cambridge, I'm sure we'll see the same thing in Cambridge. What we haven't seen yet, and what we're still very hopeful about, is the ability of the LRT to help pull more people from private single occupancy vehicles into public transit or other modes of transportation.
When I tell people that for 8 years I didn't have, and I still don't have a car, and I go to places and I go to meetings, and but I believe what helped me to take that decision is the good transportation infrastructure
Yes.
that we have.
Yes.
So in many cases, I take the bus to the last point that I can reach, and then I order a taxi for just like $10 or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I share a car with two of my sons, and because we all work different spots, which means that I probably actually use the car about 1 day a week. Other than that, I use public transit. And when I can't, if I have meetings that just don't make it possible with the bus, then I'll use community car share.
Yes,
but
yes, we have we have wonderful.
That's a great service.
Yeah.
And I do it for a whole bunch of reasons, but one is that I really think it's important that our community start to understand public transit as something for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just something for students.
Yep.
Not just something for poor people.
Yep.
And when you talk about the people that oppose investments in public transit, that's typically that's how they see it.
Yeah.
They see it as something that's only for kids and only for poor people, and nobody else really needs it.
Yeah. What shall I pay for something that I will not use?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then use it.
Yes, exactly. Use it. There are some statistics that people who use public transportation, actually, they are 7 kilograms less in weight.
It's absolutely
on average.
It's not just healthier for the environment; it's healthier for you. It definitely is.
Yeah. And I tell people that I struggle to have time for reading, and I love reading, and bus time became my reading time or my listening to
my
audio.
Time.
yes. So it becomes part of my me time.
Yes, I feel exactly the same way.
Yeah.
But we still have I think we've done good things with transportation in our region, but we're moving more slowly than I would like us to move. And I think that
I believe these are huge projects.
They're huge projects.
Yeah, I totally
And they're also
understand.
politically very delicate
sensitive.
projects.
Yes, very much. Yeah, and yes, we hope to see progress in faster pace. But again, what I can say.
But if you look at the cost, so stage 1 of the LRT, something around $1 billion. 818 million for our piece, but with the region paying less than a third of that. And there are still so many people who talk about how expensive that was. That's nowhere near the cost of another project that we have going on right now, which is our changes to our water treatment plants.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say that's too expensive.
Yeah.
So whether it's just not on their radar because the media is not talking about it, or whether it's because they see the value of properly upgraded water treatment plants and not of the LRT, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that sometimes that context is missing, and I think that would help.
I think it's coming from two things. What's in it for me, and not in my backyard.
Yes.
So if people can see the immediate direct benefit from such projects on their lives, they will not support it. If it is coming to affect their backyard or their life in a way or another, no, not in my backyard. So and as you said, this is politically delicate and sensitive topic, so because of these things.
But people need to understand when they think of the LRT, and I don't want to go on about that one particular topic, but they think about what we're spending, but they don't think about what we're saving. And if we are able to achieve our goals, we will save so much money on the need for new roads and the need for expanded highways and the need for more parking and that's a longer term view. But in the end, it's an investment.
Yes. So let's jump to another thing. That I love with the YWCA are those programs geared towards youth development, especially girls. So in terms of design and design of these programs, is there a difference between programs geared towards girls and programs geared towards boys?
Well, I've never designed a program geared towards boys, but what I can tell you is that when we first started doing girls-only programs, it was back in about, I think it was probably around 2000, the city of Kitchener came to us, and they had just done a big study of how they were serving youth in our community. And they realized that their co-ed programs were really failing girls. Girls either weren't coming, or they were coming and then sitting on the sidelines and watching the boys. They were not properly engaged. And they realized that there was a need for girls-only, girl-focused programs. So when we have a range of different girls programs, and they all look a little different. So some of the programs might be focused more on physical activity and sports, some might be more on artistic expression, some might be, we have one right now that's focused on social justice and community engagement. But even though they all look a little different, they all have some core values, which are around equity and healthy self-esteem and healthy living, healthy lifestyles, and anti-violence. So that becomes part of a sort of a foundation of all the programs. But for each program, our programs are very much girl-led. So for each program, the girls really do tell us what they want out of the program. So they do as much designing as we do.
And I think it's very important because for decades and even centuries, girls and women were bombarded with certain type of messages. So shrink it and pink it, or if you love sports or nerdy things, you are nerdy or tomboy or whatever. So these labels, it really hurt our self-esteem. I talk about this from experience because I loved everything that boys did. For me, it was more fun, more energy. You know, I love to cook and do all these things, and I was so smart. I can do everything. But again, I was bombarded with these messages, even from women in my family and in my social circle. That's because I'm not conforming to what an ideal girl should be.
So, well, when I loved sports, and I was a physically active little girl, and what we called a tomboy in those days. And my dad's nickname for me, which didn't mean the same thing back then as it does now, was Butch. That's what he called me. And because I was
even my father had he named me he nicknamed me after boys even till this moment. You know, he asks me, did you grow a mustache or not yet?
But we one of the things that we do very very consciously is talk about those gendered roles and really challenge them. But you know, the girls, well, we're growing up in this environment. We hear these messages and we do absorb them. So we need to really actively think about them and not just accept them. I think that some of the gender roles that we have decided, you know, this belongs to girls and this belongs to boys and this belongs to women and this belongs to men, are what continues to really limit women. Even in our culture, which is a very egalitarian culture as they go, I think that we are still limited by these ideas that, you know, caregiving still belongs to females and competition still belongs to males. I think that that still is holding us back in our work and politically. And there were two incidents that made me think and reflect. One was a big poster in front of a church of Barbie, and the poster says, "No perfect people are allowed." And for me, that poster was really annoying because I loved Barbie. I love to play with Barbie, and at the same time I loved Lego and do these things. So part of me loved these girly things, and I see value in it. So my Barbie can pretend to be whoever she likes, and I can work with Lego and Meccano and all these things. And also, no perfect people are allowed. So are we doing a reverse discrimination when we have a smart woman who's beautiful, who's confident, who's all this, and she doesn't have a sad story behind her? Are we discriminating against this type of women? But I think you make a really good point. I think that we sometimes run the risk of saying, when we say that Barbies are bad, or that this clothes style is bad or something, I think that what we run the risk of doing is saying that girls' things are bad.
Yes.
Instead of simply saying that they can be boys' things too.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with people choosing all of these things,
yeah.
as long as they don't have this as long as they don't feel they have to choose it because of a gender.
Yeah.
So, I'm always thrilled when I hear that men are the ones who are staying home with their children when they're little.
Yes.
Because I think that's, in our society, that is a very difficult thing for a family to agree to do, because
yeah.
it is a big change from what's normally accepted.
Yeah.
And I think when a dad decides to do that, I think it's great for his family, it's great for his kids. But I think there's probably also people in his family saying, why are you staying home?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What kind of man are you?
Mr. Mama or something like this. Yeah. And even if he doesn't choose to stay at home, being involved and taking care of the kids as much as the mother is doing. I really respect my husband, because he helped me when my kids were so little. I had some health issues, and my husband, not even because of my health issues, but he was very, very involved, and he can change their diapers and feed them and play with them. And actually, I can see now, I have 16 years and 14 years old boys, how close they are. And this bond, it was not the result of today. No, actually, it was the result of 16 years of involvement and engagement with his sons, on a very, very intimate level.
Yes. Yeah. And when your boys are ready to become fathers, that will be normal for them, because that's what
I can see how they deal with other women. They are so respectful for other women. They never use these gender references that they are weak or something like this. I can see how growing up in such environment affected their views to the other gender.
I see that the millennials and younger, I think that that dichotomy is really starting to dissolve. So I'm very optimistic that when the people that are in their 20s and 30s now, and maybe a little younger than that, I think that we will really start to see some of the big gaps that women face. I think we'll start to see those fall apart, because they're not.
It's very interesting that you mentioned millennials, because I was in a business meeting recently, and someone said, "Oh, I don't like to work with millennials," although that half of his team was millennials. And we have, of course, Generation Z and Generation X, and I see that there are some prejudice towards these generations. They accuse them of being entitled, or they feel that they are entitled, or they have lower work ethics. So, do you work with millennials? Of course, with the girls.
I have 3 millennials at home. They're not all at home, but I have 3 millennials of my own.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely, and it is interesting. I've recently hired a young woman for quite a senior position that will involve her being that requires her to be a competent and assertive person. That's an integral skill set she needs for the job. But even though she's new, it surprises me how ready she is to question me, and I don't mean in a disrespectful way at all, and challenge me. And it kind of takes me back, because when I was her age, I would never have thought to do that to a supervisor who could have been her mother. She's the age of my kids. But so on the one hand, it makes me sort of go, oh, wow, that was surprising. But on the other hand, I think, these are the things that I hired you for. These are the very skills that you need for your job.
And you took a chance on her. I remembered my first senior position, department manager, when I was 28. And the youngest manager before me, he was in his 50s. So when the general manager chose me and appointed me as a department manager, everyone challenged him. And they gave me hard time, very, very hard time. But but he was brave enough to take a chance on me and see something in me. The same thing that as you saw in that lady. So on one hand, we see millennials as they feel entitled or they don't have the work ethics. So on one hand, as businessmen and women, we see millennials see themselves as entitled or they lack work ethics. But at the same time, we want to hire people who will add value to our organization and businesses and do these things. And some people are afraid to give them the chance. To empower them to take decisions and be bold and take risks.
Well, I think it's not unlike one of the things that I talk about because of my work is how we have certain ideas of what leadership looks like, and it tends to look like men. And I think that disadvantage
or women in suits,
or
the power dress,
the pantsuit, and so on the one hand, I say we really need to rethink of how we look at leadership because that's part of our problem. But I can't. At the same time, I'm thinking that I can't say, and millennials are so entitled. I have to simply say it's a different way of conducting your life and of engaging with people, and that doesn't mean it's the wrong way just because it's not the way that I grew up with 20 or 30 years ago. So I think that it's on us as older people to learn how to appreciate the strengths of that and not think it's wrong.
And learn other ways to motivate them. I see that younger generations are very involved with certain causes that they support. They like to invest in experiences, not in things. They value money because of what money can bring them. Not just accumulating wealth. So what they can do with this wealth.
There's a big shift in the charitable sector, and my organization is a charity. The way that people give, the way people contribute to charities has changed massively. And the things that you were talking about are part of that. Millennials are not people who want to say, I'm going to join your board and spend the next 20 years on your board, and all of my charitable donations are going to go to your organization for the next 20 years. That might have been something that the baby boomers did before us, but the younger people are wanting to be involved in different ways with their philanthropy, and they're wanting to give in different ways, and they're much
with
more
equity.
They want a hands-on involvement. They want to feel the connection, and they want to skip around and sample all sorts of different things. So we as charities have to have some different expectations of what donations are going to look like in the future.
One of the stakeholders in the social sector are the clubs that service clubs run by business and professional people like Zonta. You are part of this. I will be part soon. And Rotary Club. I don't know what other clubs, but some other organizations. So these organizations, started, some of them 2 decades ago, or 2 centuries ago or more. What's the role of such organizations as a stakeholder in the community?
Well, I mean, on the simplest answer is that service clubs raise funds and do works that benefit the community, and certainly my service club Zonta does that. We do 3 major fundraising events each year, and the funds that we raise go to women's health initiatives and women's social programming. But it's more than that. Zonta has a big advocacy component, so there's opportunities to express yourself politically. Again, typically, not always, but typically around issues that affect women. But it's also a lot of friendship, a lot of it's the people's social network in a lot of cases. There are members. I've only been with Zonta for about 3 years, but there are people who've been Zontans for 30 years, and the women that they meet with, in some cases several times a month, depending on their committee work as well, are their best friends. So I think Service clubs are a very interesting phenomenon, but I think they serve a lot of different purposes for people.
Yeah, yeah. I really advocate for such organizations. It affected me personally very much. I became friends with people I will never, knew them otherwise. So I really love this. And with all the changes that's happening in our community in recent years, we received lots of newcomers, and we started to talk about things that we didn't talk about in the past. So how do you see the dynamics of our communities are changing with the new people participating? And
well, I think that we have a long way to go on that yet. I think that we were just talking about this at our Wellbeing meeting last night. We did a really good job of welcoming, I think it was 1,800 refugees, I think, into our community. We welcomed them as guests.
Yeah.
But they're not guests now.
Yeah.
They live here now. They're part of our community. Now we need to make the switch between, welcoming them to actually integrating them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we're not entirely prepared to do yet. I think that we haven't got the infrastructure, and we don't have the systems yet in place. We have a lot of refugee families that are now on the wait list for housing, and it's not like we're ready to bring people in the way it would have been nice if we could. But I think that we really do need to rethink how we see ourselves as a community. When I came here, we were all about our German heritage. Well, I don't have German heritage. So even though I have European heritage, I still felt, well, do I really belong here? Because that's not my background. Yeah. So I think we really need to redefine ourselves, and we're doing that. Yeah. We do have a huge, ridiculous event that celebrates our German heritage, but we also have a lot of multicultural things going on, and I think that's something we need to.
And even with Oktoberfest, it's maybe there are some reference to the German heritage, but again, it started to be more inclusive. I was a member of the Women of the Year committee, and right now we are planning something with the Rotary Club. And the trend now is to be more inclusive, have activity that's geared towards all the families, and be family friendly and other ethnicities friendly. Yes. So everyone will have something to do during the time of the festival. So
and there are so many groups. And we are a very, very diverse community. Yeah. I think we have, for our size, I think we are one of the most diverse. And I think one of the things that we have is a lot of groups doing little festivals and celebrations to showcase, to show off, to showcase. It seems like every weekend in the summer there's a Greek food festival or a Somalian picnic or there's something happening all the time. And when I go to those events, and I do go whenever they have food.
But you have a wonderful figure. So.
But what I do see is there's always tons of people. So it's not just the people from that community. It's everybody that's going and enjoying it. So I think those sort of things give me, they're great, and I think we can build a lot on that.
Yeah. So you are so busy, and you wear, 10, 15 hats on daily basis, and you were involved, for a long time. So with having a family, a husband, and 3 boys, how do you handle all these roles? Do
I rely a lot on my husband. He maybe once a week I'll say, I'm home to cook tonight, because that is often about as often as I'm home in the evening. He picks up the bulk of the work around the house, and one of our sons does live with us, and he's also very helpful. I do rely a lot on my family. I have the support of my organization and the board of directors of the YWCA to do the council work, which allows, and I'm very lucky in that respect because I have a job where I can flex my hours. If I have to go to a council meeting in the morning, that's fine. I can make up the Y stuff later, and vice versa. Not everybody would have an employer that would let them do that. So that does well. That's critical.
Yeah, one of the things that I really advocate for women is to change the word work-life balance to work-life harmony, and also to establish strong supportive systems. Before coming to Canada, I had certain type of support system around me. When I came here, it took me a few years to figure out the support system, and also raising kids to be independent was really important. And of course, having a supportive husband, who believes in you and encourages you to do whatever you are doing.
Honestly, if I didn't have that, if I didn't have Peter and I didn't have a board that was supportive of my council work, it would be absolutely impossible for me to do it. It wouldn't just be that it would be hard. It wouldn't happen at all.
So let's talk about growing gray, because the audience who will listen to us, please search for Elizabeth Clarke and see her beautiful photo with. Of course, we will have a slideshow with the program with all your photos. Oh my God, you rock this look. So, have you ever considered dyeing your hair? Or
I did for about 3 years. I started to go gray in my 20s. So by the time I was in my late 20s, I had those white temple streaks. The rest of my hair was dark brown, but I had these white streaks by my forehead, and people would ask me had I dyed those because they were it wasn't all mixed in. They were just like stripes. So when I was in my mid-30s, I think my sister nagged me into trying to color my hair. So I did it for a couple of years, but I couldn't keep up with it. It was too much work because, I would feel, it looks fine, the day I had it done. And then a week later, I'd start to see these roots, and I thought it's just too much work to keep coloring it. So I just stopped. And by the time I was probably 40, I was pretty much like this.
Okay, but it really looks nice on you, and there is a trend now, and even models.
I've seen young girls with gray hair, and I look at them and I think, why would you do that?
It's okay. It's very interesting. I was in a party, and it was all women party, so I was allowed to take off my headscarf, and I had the white hair in the root, and one lady, she told me, now your hair, your husband wants to look to a young face. So I said, okay, I will never go gray. I want my husband to see me as young as possible, as long as possible.
Well, my husband is older than me by a couple of years, so he doesn't dare say. He's not nearly as gray as I am. He's, the middle light brown hair doesn't go gray. Doesn't go gray. But if he says anything, I just remind him that I will always be younger than him.
That's a good point. So, wrapping up this wonderful conversation, I don't want to end it, but I have to. So, what are the ways that people can collaborate and support the YWCA?
There's many ways. If people want to get involved in a sort of hands-on way, we are always interested in having board members, committee members who can bring certain skills to our organization. And we have vacancies in several committees and on our board right now. If you want to get involved in more in a programming thing, one of the things that we have that might be of interest, especially to women, is a program called Community Sheroes. And Community Sheroes is a program that matches young teen girls with women mentors to do more community volunteering, community action, social issues type things. And that's not a lot of commitment. That's a one couple of hours a month type commitment. If you're too busy to get hands-on involved, we are a charity. We do very, very gratefully accept financial donations. And our shelter always needs bedding, pillows, dishes, cups, cutlery. So we will gratefully accept those things as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being with us today. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope our audience enjoyed the conversation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Corporita Bonanza with Hanan Awaad. Catch our next episode on Thursday, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at www.corporita.info to receive our articles to learn everything you need to pave your way to success.